Welcome back to your latest industry recap. American Airlines has confirmed that its ongoing efforts to re-establish a partnership with JetBlue have concluded without an agreement being reached. Moreover, the US carrier is now suing JetBlue to recover substantial amounts of money that it believes it is owed after the collapse of the Northeast Alliance. American Airlines clarified media reports and rumors surrounding its discussions with JetBlue, and as a result, there has been some interest in renewing its partnership with JetBlue that has been expressed over the last few months. American Airlines believed that renewing this relationship was in the best interests of its customers and aimed to expand its already successful network further to increase market share. A proposition was put forward to JetBlue, however, American Airlines states that over time, it became clear that JetBlue had a different mindset and was focused on other priorities across its business that did not involve collaboration. American Airlines says that because an agreement couldn't be reached and therefore did not make sense operationally or financially, it's now looking to structure its focus elsewhere and move away from JetBlue. The company will, yes, continue to emphasize the New York and Boston spaces to strengthen the Northeast market. More than 20 new routes have already been added from New York JFK to LaGuardia Airport as part of expansion efforts. These new routes are made possible thanks to the return of slots following the closure of the Northeast Alliance. The discussion around this follows the previously announced partnership being a hot topic of conversation in 2023, and where after much deliberation, the US District Judge ruled to terminate the alliance between the two major carriers. This formally launched in 2021. It was only around for a very short period. The alliance between the two companies captured headlines for its implications for the industry. The pair were able to work together effectively to strengthen their market position and had considerable control over scheduling, including the swapping of slots and more in this northeastern corridor. American Airlines had outlined growth plans for that corridor, but was struggling to grow organically. At least this is what they believed. Together, however, they believed they were in a stronger position to strengthen from their market presence and had, like I said, considerable control over key elements. Only months, however, after its establishment, there was significant pushback and attempts to block the partnership began to appear. In a final ruling, the judge determined that the establishment of the said alliance did not align with the airline's goals outlined initially. Instead, they said the companies focused solely on benefiting themselves and, if anything, taking further competition away, which could lead to price rises and much more. Interestingly, if you're looking at public perception over this Northeast Alliance, we're very much either in one camp, the camp that agreed with this and felt it was very beneficial, or the camp that thought it was a threat to other companies. Keen to hear your take on that down below. Moving over to Korean Air, who are currently undergoing one of their more ambitious growth periods in company history, but a lack of aircraft and engines are remaining a very present challenge. The airline's CEO and chairman Walter Cho spoke exclusively with CNBC, discussing the state of the South Korean company and providing further information on the industry's current state and its business operations. As Korean Air prepares for the integration, remember, of Aviation Airlines into its business, there is a natural emphasis to introduce some of your next generation aircraft, with the firm belief and knowledge that the introduction of these planes will allow for lower costs. New aircraft, according to Cho, were required to achieve better economics. Before trade wars began in the United States, it looked to leverage its trust in Boeing products to purchase them in significant quantities. However, acquiring these new planes has ultimately been a challenge, and now Korean Air has confirmed it's short by 5 or 6 planes, and route cuts have had to be made in order to keep the schedule and supply chain issues at hand. While new plane deliveries aren't occurring on time, resulting in the airline being short of aircraft, the problems are also extending beyond that to engines, with multiple planes already having been delivered and parked without the necessary engines to operate them safely. As touched on, this is very much an industry-wide problem, but it doesn't make it any better for Korean Air. Walter Cho has stated as well that the airline faces very much uncertain times amid increasing political tensions. Unfortunately, Korean Air is situated near both China and the United States, so it ultimately feels the effects of the tensions and threats of tariffs. Cho says it's trying to maintain its agility as much as possible, while the trade war seems to be a recurring theme between China and the US, the airline's chief believes this time around it remains much more unpredictable, which is almost worse. Thanks to having no idea how things will pan out, the airline is still trying to stay positive despite a lot of turbulence. Korean Air says it has seen demand shift away from the United States, but this is more due to increased competition than a decline in demand. US traffic continues to soften as more locals head towards Japan, and the carrier doesn't believe this trend will change in the short term, considering the developments that have taken place since the beginning of 2025. Over to the final story, and that sits with Lufthansa, who are growing their fleet of Boeing 787 Dreamliners. The German flag carrier, with reporting led by Hangar.no, has finalised an agreement to bring 3 additional Dreamliners into its fleet, these already built units. The ability to acquire more Dreamliners has really hinged on aircraft serving as white tiles. I have explored this multiple times across videos in the last few months, but it's essentially planes that were built for an airline, but the contract that was agreed upon fell through and left these already built planes without a home. Now, according to reporting, 3 aircraft that were destined for a company are now headed to Lufthansa. This is backed up by further registration adjustments that can be seen on many different fleet sites. Serial number 63350, serial number 63348, and serial number 63349 were all destined for initially Norwegian, a name that you may not be too familiar with if you are considering the Boeing 787 with this company, especially if you are new to the aviation industry, because once upon a time, Norwegian flew the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. However, it entered restructuring and scrapped its long-haul operation, and as a result, all Boeing 787s were removed from the carrier, and ironically, that was how Norse was formed. But any planes intended for delivery, and trust me, there were more Dreamliners, were basically scrapped as well. But now, those 787s are set to find a new home with the German flag carrier, which has been aggressively seeking ways to enhance its fleet in the short term, without relying solely on new plane deliveries, which are often to be delayed. See, I've said it time and time again, but it is very important. Right before the global pandemic, Lufthansa charted a course for fleet renewal, arguably probably coming at the worst possible time. While the global pandemic did allow for the retirement of many aircraft that it deemed no longer feasible to have within its operation and were costing it a lot of money. In terms of bringing on next generation planes to act as replacements, well, this was probably where more of the challenges began. They did have the opportunity to remove planes and accelerate fleet growth, but the process has not been easy. All pressures increased tenfold when Lufthansa faced those complications in taking on next generation planes. These have been caused by supply chain woes and equally Boeing's own certification troubles. Therefore, Lufthansa has faced limitations which really do have a daily knock-on effect to its core financial position, reflected in quarterly earnings statements, as it is forced to keep on older planes far longer. I am very much keen to hear your position down below in the comments. Thank you very much for your support here on the channel. It really does mean a lot. Take care, do be safe, and I'll see you tomorrow for your next industry recap.
And we'll fly.